This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 251. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about painting, modeling, and wargame experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking stuff, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Oh, could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off some spicy new Necron datasheets, but also Necrons have this kind of digital techno vibe to them with a lot of squares. And you know what else has a lot of squares? Today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry, like Design Blueprint. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers an unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, video reviews, and add-ons, all capped off with their seamless checkout tools. Let your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in headfirst, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I love me a good gaggle of Necrons. I've been collecting Necrons for a very, very long time. It was my very first Warhammer 40,000 army. I remember walking into a Warhammer store and picking out my very first box of boys. It was Necron Hex Marks. Or no, was it Hex? No, that's the new thing. It was Necron Death Marks. One box of Necron Death Marks, and I brought it home and I remember putting them together on my mom's kitchen table. It was a time. I don't have those models anymore. I don't know what happened to them. I think I might have ripped them apart and turned them into Necron Immortals, because the same box builds either Immortals or the Sniper guys. So I think they're still in my army, but it's been so long, who's to say? I love me some Necrons, and Games Workshop loves Necron too, because they came out with some new datasheets. One for a brand spanking new guy, but one a refresh of an older datasheet that I never looked at that hard, and that is the Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. I'm not a big fan of the Catan. They're okay, they're interesting, they're big, stabby monsters, but they cost so many points, and they don't feel Necron-y to me. They're the Necron's Pokemon, as opposed to the boys. And whenever I'm trying to put one in my list and it's like 300 points, like I can bring so many Necrons instead of bringing one of the Catan. But the new datasheet is not better in every way, but it's better in a lot of the ways that matter. Catan Shard of the Nightbringer, new and improved, is movement 10 instead of movement 6, which is really, really good. Extra movement, especially on a big base miniature, adds a ton. Then he's got a 3-up save instead of a 4-up save, which will matter sometimes. Usually, your opponent is gonna shoot its good stuff at the Catan, so it's not that big a deal what his actual normal save is, depending on his invulnerable save. But I guess sometimes, like if Sean's shooting his las guns at my Catan, it will matter and I will get to save a little bit better. He's got a 4-up invulnerable save, which is disgusting. 50% of the time, he will not be taking the hit. A 50-50 invulnerable save is so annoying. I played a game against Sean and his winged demon princes of Emperor's Children, and you have, like, you're doing the math in your head, and it's like, this should happen. Half of the shots should go into the guy, but sometimes you just roll a little bit hot and it just all goes away, and it's like, no! I had 3 different units all shooting at this thing, and I really didn't want to have to use all 3 of them because there was like 1 wound remaining, and it's like, I just need anything. I need anything to go through, and Sean just kept making those 4-ups, and it was disgusting. So Shard of the Nightbringer also has that same ability. Wounds 16 as opposed to 12, so he went up 4 wounds. That's kind of a big deal, especially when you have all of this save shenanigan on those wounds. So you're not just getting a wound, you're getting like 2 wounds for the price of 1 every single time. 16 is a lot to chew through, and it gets even worse. Feel no pain, 5 up on every single one of those wounds. That is gross. I mean, it's cool when I do it with my Necron warriors, but obviously when it's on a big guy like this, it's really, really nasty. 4-up invulnerable save with a 5-up feel no pain, and it gets even better. His Necrodermis ability, subtract 1 for the damage characteristic of that attack when it's allocated to him, so a damage 2 weapon becomes a damage 1 weapon when it's going against Shard of the Nightbringer, and then he rolls his 4-up invulnerable save, and if it still gets through, then he does a 5-up feel no pain. Absolutely gross. That is really, really, really mean. What's really annoying about that is it makes it much harder to do the math. I guess you want to shoot like las cannons or some really high anti-tank weapons to just pray that those shots are slipping through and getting through all of this shenanigans so that it actually will do the damage you want him to do. And then 16 wounds with reanimation protocol. If you don't finish him off, in my turn, he's gonna resurrect D3 of those wounds. And each one of those wounds that comes back has to get chewed through in the same agonizing way. That is really, really painful. And on top of that, he's pretty good. He's got the Gaze of Death, D3 really good attacks, actually really good shooting attacks, with hitting on 2s, strength 12, AP -3, damage D6 +3, so his eyeballs are D3 las cannons. And then for melee weapon, he's got a strike and a sweep profile that is also really, really good, very reminiscent of Fulgrim, the new Primarch for the Emperor's Children. Is he better than Fulgrim? Kinda not, because he gets a little bit less attacks. Actually, no, he gets the same number of attacks, but he doesn't have the extra attacks from the tail, from Fulgrim's whippy whippy snake boy tail. But man, it's still really gross. Either strength 14 or strength 8, 6 attacks or 14 attacks. And his 14 attacks for the sweep profile is very much a Space Marine killer at AP -2, damage 2, where his strike attack is AP -4, damage D6 +2. So he can either attack you with a supercharged melt-a-gun 6 times, or hit you with a power fist 14 times, all hitting on 2s. This guy, I mean, he's the Satan Shard of the Nightbringer. He is an absolute monstrosity. There's no way he's still gonna be 305 points. Does he go up an extra 100 points? I feel like that almost wouldn't even be unfair. That's a lot of really, really good stuff all piled on one guy. It's probably not gonna go up 100 points, but it's gonna go up a lot. Man, that is a really, really gross profile. The big guys in 40k are really, really annoying. I would love to play Age of Sigmar with some of the really, really big stuff, because they have units that are like 300, 400, 500 points in game. And I don't hear a lot of grumbling about it, because somehow they've managed to make it feel fair, where I feel like when you get into the really, really high points cost things for 40k, it just feels unfair, because the bog standard profiles of like your infantry and your tanks just cannot really deal with it, and they shouldn't be able to deal with it because you're fighting like gods or primarchs or those two things. Like, you know, your normal guy should be able to statistically do a certain amount of damage to a tank, but how much damage should they statistically do against a god? It is a really, really big challenge, and it's just a pain in the butt to play against the really, really big guys. Mortarion, Fulgrim, Magnus the Red is really, really annoying. I think I've killed Magnus twice ever, mostly on Tabletop Simulator. I've only played him once in person, and I didn't manage to kill him in person, but I've killed him a couple of times digitally. I think I have a better track record of actually finishing my games in Tabletop Simulator than I do in person. But the big guys, they're just kind of a pain in the butt to play with, which is another reason why I don't bring the Catans, because just I like the boys. I like the regular guys. I like the feeling of playing classic Warhammer, where I just got some warriors and some ghost arcs and a couple of immortals, maybe a destroyer kicking around here and there. But the really big nasty guys are just really big and really nasty. The new miniature for Catan Shard of the Nightbringer looks absolutely phenomenal. It's gone a long way from the teeny weeny little fine cast Nightbringer. And also those models were sculpted back before the lore was written for Necrons. Because back in the day, well, originally they were chaos robots, but then they became a super spooky kind of subservient species to these star gods. And a lot of people harken back to this lore as the good Necron lore. I kind of disagree because back then they were just a mystery. I have the original, I think 3rd edition Necron Codex, and in the entire book, there's only one story from the perspective of the Necrons, and it's very, very nebulous what is actually happening. Most of the entire book is just stories from the other factions of 40k meeting the Necrons and not really knowing what's going on and getting instantly stomped. And so if that mystery was interesting, but I really, really like modern Necron lore with the dynasties, and in my opinion, the best thing in Warhammer 40,000, the best story, the War in Heaven. Necrons are so cool and so interesting in 40k because they've already beaten 40k. They conquered the galaxy, they defeated their gods, they reached immortality, and it sucks. And so now they've rebooted Warhammer 40,000 and they're gonna play the game again. And it's just so interesting that all of these other factions in 40k are fighting for dominance, but the Necrons have already done it. They've already won the game, and it's not good. The ending is really, really bad. I guess in theory, the other factions could maybe figure out a way to conquer the galaxy and not have it be awful. But I always go back to the page 1 of Warhammer 40,000. In the grim darkness of the far future, there's only war. It is the worst possible time. If there's something bad that can happen, it is going to happen. The Necrons are so cool. One thing I've always loved for the Necrons is the destroyer cults. Necron destroyers, there's 2 ways that a Necron can sort of die, or at least start going down the track of dying. And that is either getting the Flayer Curse, which turns them into a stabby monster. I guess both ways turn them into a stabby monster, but the Flayer Curse kind of turns them into a mindless stabby monster, where the Destroyer Curse makes them want to destroy all life in the galaxy, like hard stop. All life in the galaxy. If the destroyers show up to help out with the Necrons battle, at the end of the battle when the other Necrons are like reassembling themselves or looking at their victory and looking at like what they've accomplished, the destroyers are just floating around the battlefield shooting the grass because they want to take out all life in the galaxy. Not one living cell can remain after the destroyers have done their business. And there is a new destroyer character, Necrosaur Amentar. The Games Workshop has been teasing this guy for a hot minute, and now we have got the data sheet. And he is an interesting fella. Games Workshop, the more recent character models they've been coming out with have these very, very interesting rules that makes me think in 11th edition they're gonna change exactly how characters work, which would be fine, but it's interesting to see maybe a little bit of that bleeding into the tail end of Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. Some of his abilities are interesting. But first, he is movement 10, so quick for a Necron, toughness 8, very, very nice, 3 up save, 4 up invulnerable save, wounds 9, leadership 6, objective control 3. Ooh, objective control 3. I guess because he's a big guy, and so he gets to be 3 guys when he's standing on objective, but that's actually kind of nice. So him sparring with an enemy character is going to mean that I win the objective. That actually is really, really nice. For his guns, he has the Enmatic Disintegrator, 4 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, AP -2, damage 1, ignores cover, pistol, which is really nice so he can shoot it in close combat, and sustained hits 2, so it is a Tesla gun. Oh, Necrons and the Tesla. I love Tesla so much. It's not good, but it's sustained hits 2. So every 6 you roll is 3 successful hits, which is really, really fun. I like when I roll a bunch of dice, and then I get to roll even more dice. That is always a really, really fun way to do things. Then for combat, he's got the Blade Whip, the Blade Tail, and Whip Coils, which is his extra attacks. 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, AP -1, damage 1. So it'll do a little bit of extra damage, probably kill off an extra Space Marine or a little gaggle of guardsmen. Then the Unmaker Gauntlets. 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 10, AP -3, flat damage 3. Ooh, flat damage 3. So Blade Guard veterans or Black Templar Sword Brethren are getting stomped by this guy. flat damage 3 is really, really nice. Imperial Guard players know flat damage 3 well, because it feels like every single gun in their codex does flat damage 3. But I haven't gotten to experience it that often. This guy does look really, really fun. He's got Deep Strike. Probably not worth the deep striking him, because he can't join units, and he's probably kind of expensive, and so probably want to start him out on the board doing things. And then he also has Fights First. Ooh, Fights First. Fights First is really, really nasty. And you pair that with a little bit of Heroic Intervention so that he can get into combat in the opponent's turn. There's definitely something really, really spicy there. Now, I mentioned that he can't join units, which is true, but he has, because of that, he doesn't bestow benefits to his squad. He just gives out aura effects, which is really, really nice because that means that it can enhance multiple units at the same time. His first ability, Protective Discipline. Oh yeah, that just gives him Lone Operative when he is within 3 inches of another Destroyer Cult unit. It'll be interesting what Destroyer Cult unit that's gonna be, because I think he actually has some really good options. With his Infectious Murder Madness. The Infectious Murder Madness. While a friendly Necron unit, excluding Titanic, thank you Games Workshop, the Seraptic Heavy Construct doesn't get to do this, is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, if that model's Destroyer Cult keyword, or it is the closest eligible target, that attack has the Sustained Hits 1 ability. I really like that or. That or is really, really spicy. So he gives sustained hits to destroyer units or something that is attacking the closest enemy unit. It wouldn't work on flayed ones because they already have sustained hits, but Lich Guard, like Lich Guard with War Sides, and all of a sudden their 2 War Scythe attacks per guy have sustained hits 1. That could be really, really spicy. I guess this guy and his Infectious Murder Madness, being so close to them, he infects them with the Murder Madness, and so then they just pop off a little bit harder. I think Lich Guard would be a really, really interesting choice. Maybe even Praetorian Guard, because they have a really good gun and a really good melee attack, and so maybe they could potentially take advantage of it in 2 phases. Is it just combat? Makes an attack. It does not look like it's just combat, so there could be something to something with a gun. Sustained Hits 1. A lot of destroyers already have Sustained Hits 1, like the Locust Destroyers on their guns, but this would definitely help out with Scorpex and Ophidian Destroyers, who are both stabby melee destroyers. So that is still a really, really good ability. And then he is the Prophet of Destruction. Each time this model destroys an enemy unit, select one other friendly Destroyer Cult unit within 9 inches. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. That is really, really good. Might be a little tricky to pull off because his stat line is not a squad wiping stat line. If he goes into like a squad of 5 Space Marines, one of those Space Marines is probably going to end up surviving, especially if they Armor of Contempt. So it's going to be hard for him to actually finish off an enemy unit. There might be in one of the detachments an ability to give him precision so that he could precision out a character, and then that would allow this ability to pop off. But rerolling a wound roll of 1 is really, really good. Anything that you can do to modify the wound roll usually is a huge, huge benefit to the squad. And if he kills something 9 inches around him, so 18 inches plus whatever his base is, which is probably at least a 50mm base, this guy has definitely got some serious juice to help out fellow destroyer and kind of any Necron units. He does seem really, really interesting. A real force multiplier in Necrosaur. He's a Necron who's Soar Amentar. Really, really interesting guy. I'm definitely gonna have to get one of these suckers. I really, really like the destroyers. I feel like I don't have enough. I've got 6 Scorpec destroyers. I have 6 Locust destroyers. I've got 2 Locust heavy destroyers. I have no Ophidians. I've got 2 Hexmark destroyers. Like, I would need to get maybe another squad of Scorpex, some Ophidians for probably objective shenanigans because they have the uppy downy ability at the end of the turn. If they're not within engagement range of anything, they can be taken off the board and put back into strategic reserve where they can come back down. I believe they have deep strike, so they get to come back down wherever they want, more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So they probably are not like a frontline battle unit meant to march alongside Amentar. They're probably hiding around everywhere else on the board. but definitely some Scorpex. I really, really like Scorpex. With the attached Scorpec Destroyer Lord, yeah, he hits really, really hard with his super gauntlets. I mean, it's not as cool as the Unmaker gauntlet that this guy has, but it's still a really, really cool weapon. And honestly, with the sustained hits 1, there could be something to having like a 3-man squad of Locust heavy destroyers with their super las cannons floating just behind this guy to give him his own lone operative, and then to get the sustained hits on those guns. That could be a really, really good way, because the enemy is probably going to be wanting to move to make firing lanes on this guy with their heavier stuff. So it might make sense to have some of my own heavy stuff right on him to shoot over him and potentially get some really nice shots off at those things. There's a lot of really, really interesting stuff you can do with this guy. And I haven't even looked at the detachments. There's a couple of new detachments that are out. One of them specifically for the destroyers. The current destroyer detachment for Necrons is probably the worst one. But if there's a brand new one that is hopefully a little bit better written, it could be really, really spicy. And destroyers, like, it's just 3-man squads of kind of big guys, but they're Necrons, so they're really easy to paint. I feel like a destroyer army would not be that hard to whip up. The only sad thing is Amentar is a epic hero, so you can only take one of him. Like, it would be kind of cool to have multiple Necrosaur squads of just a bunch of units taped together, just absolutely doing some stuff. This would be a really, really fun game of Destroyer versus Emperor's Children, because you just want to crash together as fast as possible. And it would really be a game of who can kill the other one first in close combat. And I think the Necrons might be able to do it. They have a lot of really good anti-Space Marine punches, where the Space Marines, their weapons, a lot of them are strength 4. They're not going to be able to hit the Necrons as hard as the Necrons are hitting the Space Marines. I think it would be a very, very interesting game. Necrons are eating really, really good. And we just got that kill team, which came with the Geomancer, which I think does something. And the 2 little piddly guys. I think this guy would even... There was something to do with Wraiths. I was thinking about it last night. Wraiths are another disgusting unit where they have a 4-up invulnerable save. And if you attach a Technomancer to them, which is the Canoptech guy with the... He's got a cloak that is also a spider that he's sort of riding. And that guy grants a 5-up feel no pain to Necron Wraiths. And so one of the most disgusting things you can see across the table from you is a 6-man squad of Wraiths with the attached Technomancer. It's just a really, really hard nut to crack. And I have brought that in many a game of 40k. It's not as bad as back in like 8th edition when Wraiths had a 3-up invulnerable save, but it's still 4-up invuln, a 5-up feel no pain is really, really gross. That's kind of the point of the Necrons. They're meant to take a lot of punishment and then just get back up and keep on fighting. And it does make for a really, really fun playstyle. I took my Necrons to an RTT, and although I did not perform very well, and that was user error, it's still a really, really fun army. And when you get to roll all those reanimation protocols and things are popping off, it really, really is a good feeling. Almost a good feeling as shopping on EonsOfBattle.com. On our website, we have all kinds of hobby goodies: Army Painter paints, brushes, wet palettes, basing cork, and speaking of basing cork, we have glue, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue. And we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit, good for any one terrain pack we have ever made, or the brand new one. New in January, we have created the Tomb Library, a set of hyper-advanced structures designed to quickly get a thematic defensive position up and running on the tabletop. The wall sections create an impenetrable fortress as they crackle with energy, floating just above the battlefield, and following just behind are the sarcophagus, ancient tombs of forbidden power with room to display the aliens' captured trophies and macabre exhibits. This terrain was designed by us and is available now at EonsOfBattle.com. I am really, really excited for Necrosaur Amentar. I'm definitely going to get this guy. I really want my destroyer cultists to do even more damage on the tabletop, and he seems like a really, really fun unit to bring. I don't know about the Catan. I don't know. The Catan is very, very good. He is really, really good. Still not that interested in taking him. Maybe I'll take a plush toy and just call that Shard of the Nightbringer and bring it in a game just to play around with those rules, but I don't know. Just the really, really big expensive things for 40k. I don't find them that much fun to play with because Like, I'm just sitting there being like, I hope he doesn't die. I hope he doesn't die. I hope he doesn't die. And then my opponent's over there being like, I really hope he dies. I really hope he dies. I really hope he dies. And I feel like it doesn't make for the funnest play loop in the game of 40k. I think it's much more fun to just push around my boys. My opponent is pushing around their infantry, and we just see what happens. I don't know. But let me know in the comments below if you love bringing the big guys and you like that feeling of nervousness through the course of the entire game. It's not for me. Thanks for watching.